Let's sit in a comfortable meditation posture and close the eyes. Put the attention on the silence that's always there deep in the mind. Connect with that silence and become that silence. You are the silent witness. From this perspective of the silent witness, using the absolute senses, listen to the words of the Yoga Vasishta. Book 4, Chapter 25, continuing with verse 21. This destroyer of gods, Devas and Suras, had a gigantic and terrific appearance. He commanded a large army of demons, Asuras, to defeat the deities. Wherever this magician demigod went, to sleep or left or somewhere out of this city, the gods sought every opportunity to harass the demon force. This enraged Sambara to such a degree that he broke trees in his rage, and he ordered his generals to protect his legions. The gods, finding their opportunities, killed the demons one by one like hawks, pounce and kill feeble and timid sparrows. The king of the demons then appointed other generals over his army, and they were as swift-footed and hoarse-sounding as the waves of the sea. When the leader of the demon band pursued his enemies to their station above the heavens, the gods destroyed them in a short time. The gods fled from their heavenly abode for fear of them, like timid deer flying into the thick thickets at the sight of Shiva's and Gauri's bull. The gods were weakened with weeping, and the faces of Apsara nymphs were covered in tears. The demons saw the heavenly abode abandoned by the celestials, as if the desolation of the world. He wandered about in his rage, plundering, and took away all the valuables of that place. He burnt down the cities of the rulers of heaven, and then returned to his own abode. The enmity between the deities and demons was so intense on both sides that it forced the gods to quit their heavenly abodes and hide in distant parts of the world. But the enraged gods succeeded at last by their perseverance to defeat and slay all the generals and combatants that Sambara set against them. Then the defeated demon gave vent to his fury and began to breathe out living fire from his nostrils, like a burning mountain. After much searching in the three worlds, he found the hiding place of the gods. As a wicked man succeeds in his purpose by his best endeavors. Then, to protect his army, he produced by his sorcery 3 very strong and fearful demons with hideous appearances like that of death. These horrible leaders of his army, being produced in his magic, flew upward with their enormous bodies, resembling the flying mountains of. They had the names of Dhamma, the snare, Vyala, the snake, and Kata, the mat, giving for their entrapping, enfolding, and enwrapping the enemy according to the demon's wish. There were beings without previous births and devoid of changing desire. The lack of their prior acts made them move about as freely as spiritual beings in one uniform tenor of their course. These were not born like men from the seeds of their previous acts with solid and substantial bodies. They were mere artificial forces in airy forms, copies of images in the demon Sambara's mind. Being born in this way, they followed events as they happened, like blind sheep. It's like a boy moves his limbs when he is not in sound sleep. These 3 generals performed actions devoid of subtle karmic impressions and self or egoism. They did not know the sudden attack of the enemy on them and on their attack on the enemy. They did not know running away from battle. They did not know birth or death, victory or defeat, or war, as a matter of fact. But they attacked the enemy in front of them with blows that turn even mountains into dust. Sambara was pleased with them. He was confident that with their help he could defeat the enemy. Sambara was confident that his army, strong and stable under the shades of the shoulders of the 3 demons, could withstand the onslaught of the gods, just as Mount Meru stands firm in spite of the blows of the teeth of the elephants carrying earth from the 8 quarters. Chapter 26. Description of the battle between gods and demons. Vasishta continued. So thinking, the chief of the demons dispatched the generals Dhamma, Vyala, and Kata to lead his armies to destroy the gods upon earth. The demonic army rose out of the foaming sea and infernal caverns in full armor and wielding fiendish arms. They burst forth with hideous noise. The demon soldiers soared aloft, with their huge bodies like mountains flying on high. Their monstrous and mountainous bodies hid the disk of the sun in the sky, and their stretching arms smote him of his rays. They increased in number and size under the leadership of Dhamma, Vyala, and Kata. Then the dreadful hosts of the celestials issued out from the forest and caverns of heavenly Mount Meru, like torrents of the great deluge. The forces, under the flags of gods and demons, fought together with such obstinacy that it seemed to be an untimely and deadly struggle between the gods and demons as during the prior world. The heads of decapitated warriors, decorated with shining earrings, fell down on the ground like the orbs of the sun and moon, which, being shorn of their beams, as at the end of the world, were rolling in the great abyss of chaos. The heroes hurled huge hills with the hoarse noise of roaring lions. The hills were blown up and down by the blast of an all-destroying tornado. The warriors broke weapons, fell on mountaintops, and were ground to granules. They fell like hailstones upon lions that had been resting on their sides below. The sparks of fire that flew about from the clashing of weapons were like the scattered stars of the sky flying at random on the last day of dissolution. The tala ghosts, as big as tala palm trees, were beating the tala time of their giddy dance with the tally clapping of their palms, dancing over heaps of carnage, floating on floods of blood, flowing like a bloody sea on the surface of the earth. Showers of flowing blood put down the flying dust of the battlefield. Numbers of crowned heads, separated from their bodies, glistened among the clouds like so many stars sparkling in the sky. Demons filled all sides, blazing like burning suns with their luminous bodies. They held tall kalpa branches in their hands to strike the enemy and used to break down the tops and peaks of mountains. They ran about with their swinging swords in hand, breaking down buildings by the speed of their motion, like blasts of a gale. Rocks they hurled at the enemy were reduced to dust, like the ashes of a burning mountain. The gods also pursued them like sacrificial horses, driving the weaponless demons like clouds before the storm. They fell upon and laid hold of them like cats pouncing upon rats, seizing them for their prey. Meanwhile, demons also seized gods, like bears lay hold of men, climbing tall trees with fear. Thus, gods and demons dashed against one another, like forest trees in a storm strike each other with their branching arms, and scattered the flowers of bloodshed on both sides. Their broken weapons lay scattered on all sides, like heaps of flowers lying on the sides of a hill after a strong gale had passed. There was a close fight between both armies. A confused noise filling the vault of the sky like the hollow of an Udambara tree resounded to the combined hum of gnats rumbling within. The elephants that rule the different quarters of the skies sent their loud roars, answering the tremendous noise of the world-destroying cloud. The thickened air grew as hard as the solid earth. With gathering clouds and thickened clouds, so dense as a fist could grab them, they were heavy and slow in their motion. Broken weapons repelled by war chariots hit the hills and emitted a rattling noise from their inner hollowness, like the discordant sounds of a chorus. Mountain forests were set on fire by fiery weapons, and burning rocks melted down their lava with a noise as dreadful as that of volcanic Mount Meru, with its melting pot and blazing with the brightness of the 12 suns of the zodiac. The clamor of battle was like that of the beating waves of a boisterous ocean, filling the vast deep of the earth. Resounding hoarsely by their impact, demons hurled huge rocks that flew like birds in the air, with their flapping wings sounding like thunderclaps, while the hoarse noise of rocky caverns sounded like the deep-sounding ocean. The clamor of warfare resembled the rambling and rumbling of the ocean when it was churned by Mandara Mountain, and the clashing of weapons sounded like the gods clapping their hands in the revelry of their ambrosial nectar. In this war between the two armies, the haughty demons gained the day and laid waste to the cities and villages of the gods, together with their lands of hills and forests. The mountainous bodies of demons were also pierced by the gods' great weapons, and the roof of heaven was filled with flying weapons, flung by the hands of both parties. Bursting rockets broke the peaks and pinnacles of rocks by the hundreds, and flying arrows pierced the faces of both gods and demons. Whirling discs topped off the heads of the warriors like blades of grass. And the clamor of the armies rolled with an uproar in the midway sky. Struck by flying weapons, heavenly charioteers fell upon the ground, and their celestial cities were deluged by the hydraulic engines of the demons. Lights of swords, spears, and lances flew in the air like rivers running down mountainsides. The vault of heaven was filled with war whoops and shouts of the combatant. The palaces of the ruling gods were falling under the blows of demons from behind, and their female apartments echoed with the lamentations and jingling bells of the goddesses. The stream of flying weapons from the demons washed the bodies of the fighting men with blood, making them fly off from the battlefield with hideous cries. Death was now lurking behind, now hovering over the heads of the gods and leaders of armies, like a black bee, now skulking in and then flirting over the lotuses. Armies on both sides were defeated by the blows of the gods and demigods on the battlefield. Demons flew in the air like winged mountains, moving about the sky, making a whizzing rustle that appeared dreadful to hear. The mountainous bodies of the demons, pierced by the gods' weapons, were gushing out with streams of blood that covered the earth below to a crimson sea and tinged the air with purple clouds over the mountain heights. Many countries and cities, villages, forests, vales, and dales were laid waste, and innumerable demons, elephants, horses, and human beings were put to death. Also, the number of elephants were pierced with long and pointed shafts of steel and iron, and the bodies of huge Aravatas were bruised by the blows of steeled fists. Flights of arrows falling in showers like floods, rains, crushed the tops of mountains. The friction of thunderbolts broke down the bodies of the mountainous giants. Furious flames of heaven burned the bodies of the infernal hosts, who in their turn quenched the flames with water spouts drawn out from an underground deep. Now we will continue, established in the silent witness, and begin the Trimana Sanyama process on the esoteric Mahamantra to balance the many karmic traces that were touched by the reading of the Yoga Vasista. Take her down.